So here's what I created based on my knowledge of Java programming language and Android app development that I've accumulated over the past 60 days or so. Here's the icon for the app. I kind of like the splash screen, so I reused it. Actually, I incorporated my new app into the existing app that I developed in for practice purposes. So this menu and these tiny activities are the ones I've done previously, but these are also different activities, but these are not the ones I am going to show you. This is the one I was talking about. So this app is pretty simple. There are two buttons, back and next. These two lines are simply placeholders, and it says English here and Japanese here. So English word is going to appear up here and Japanese word is going to appear down here below. And when you press next, it's going to start. Haruman. If you press next again, next word is going to show up, or words or phrase are going to show up. We'll kick. Press next again, your ass, and next again in judo. And if you want to go back, you press back button. That, and it says beginning of the sentence, so if you press back it doesn't go any further. Earlier I had some errors that the application would crash, but now it works fine. So you keep going like this. Well, it's a pretty simple app. It's not as complex as I want it to be. So eventually I would like to add more features and functionalities to this app to have more control over the text and interface. For example, I would like to add the button here, on an on-off button, so I can turn on and off the Japanese translation down below here. And also I would like to add audio voice button somewhere on the screen, so that when you press the button, not only you see the English word, but also you can see the actual pronunciations. And I'm thinking about using a natural voice instead of a text-to-speech technology. Text-to-speech is kind of easy to do probably, but it won't sound good and it's not going to be good for the language learning anyway, so I have to have someone read it, record it for me, or I can just probably do it myself. And eventually I would like to add a feature to sound out the Japanese translations followed by reading this out in English, so that you don't have to look at the screen to practice. And also the graphical interface is kind of simple right now. I try to use fancier images and designs, but for some reason I was getting errors, so I reverted back to simple buttons and design. And also I would like to make it work for both portrait and landscape layouts. For example, when it's portrait, a couple of words is fine, but when it's landscape, I would like to have more words available. Right now it's kind of limited in space in terms of how many words you can place, unless you make the word smaller, but I don't want to do that. So it's kind of limited to simple sentences, not using big words or big phrases. So anyway, it's getting to the actual behind the scene work I did. The meat and bone of the app is pretty much based on two files. This guided reading practice.java file and also this main.xml file. And there are other things I need to do, but those are minor things. So I pretty much created all the coding and all the methods, variables, and referencing and everything from scratch on my own. So this is the Java file. Not too long. It's only like 70 lines in total. Here's the array that I set up. There are two arrays. Each one is a single column array. I really wanted to use, like a database or something like that, or external file or external XML, so I can swap the text content easily. I didn't know how to do it, so I hard-coded the arrays in the Java file. If you remember, these are the words that appear on the screen of the app, and these are the variables I set up. It took me a while to come up with a good variables, what kind of variables I need and stuff like that. And this line right here took me a really long time to figure this out. Retrieving the text from the string array was really tough thing. No one taught me how to do it, so it was trial and error, and I had to come up with a unique way, and I think that's the correct way to do, but getting to this point was really hard. The once values are stored in these variables, these variables are going to be very useful in terms of, displaying things onto a screen. One of the biggest challenges was, of course, sending these values from the string arrays stored in these variables to the actual view. Actions, or what they call activities, and the layouts are separate for the Android app development. So how do you combine these two? That was the biggest challenge. Once I figured that out, a lot of things started making sense to me, and that's how I managed to come up with my own procedure and methods, even though my knowledge is still limited. So anyway, so these two things, these two lines, and these variables are simply empty shells if there's nothing contained in these variables. So how do you put those, actual values in the string array up here into these shells, empty shells of variables? That was another big challenge I had to overcome. And again, I was using this, but what I was setting here was not exactly the right syntax for the array, so it took me a while to figure this out, and eventually I figured it out. So this is the combination I came up with. I didn't ask anybody. That's my own made up syntax, but I think it's correct, and I grouped it with the made up method called display text, so that it can be handy, it can be reusable many times. And I did reuse it many times, actually 4 times here, 1, 2, and then twice here. Instead of typing the whole thing 4 times, it makes it much easier in terms of editing. If I have to change something, I have to change it 4 times here. That's really hard. But now I only have to change it here once, and it's all going to change. Because of my limited knowledge of Java programming language and Android app development, I had to resort to hard-coded array. But the final stage of this app should use something else, probably a database, or it can be a spreadsheet or something like that I can create separately and distribute, so people can just plug and play. They can plug in different file to display different text and audio information as well. And another thing I would like to do for the final state of this app is, I might have been able to do this for this one too, but I didn't. I want to be able to read how many chunks, how many items are in an array, and based on the number, I would like to determine what the end of the sentence or paragraph is, where the beginning, where the ending, so that where you need to return to the beginning or where you need to stop, so that you can't go any further. For this one, it was pretty, there are only like 1, 2, 3, 4, only 4 blocks in total. So I just hard-coded the numbers. I used the if-else statement so that people can't go beyond. This is the beginning, so there's nothing beyond this before that, or there's nothing after that. So I had to do something about that. If you're going back, I made sure people can't go any further beyond this point. And if people are going this way after this point, I thought about making a stop, but in terms of repeating for practice, I thought it was much more convenient to send them back to the beginning. So that's what's going to happen. If you keep pressing the buttons and displaying each items here, and after this, when you press the next button, it jumps back to the first one. But when you're going back, it doesn't go back to the ending, because it doesn't make much sense. Doing that doesn't make a lot of sense. And finally, I don't know how I can integrate it into this exercise, but I want to incorporate the feature of simply playing it with the audio along, or audio and a text together. so you don't have to press the buttons, so it would just keep going and going. I kind of wonder how it's possible. Maybe it's possible if I recorded the whole sentence or paragraph and chunk the recording into each block just like a text and somehow reference to each file, it may be possible. Or if I use a database, organizing and managing those files and the referencing is going to be much easier. That's my guess. And also I kind of thought about chunking it into different pieces, different audio files is kind of tedious work. I don't want to really do it. So I was also thinking maybe I can just use markers on the audio, or somehow there are methods to retrieve those chapter marker or something in the audio file. If that's possible, then that might be the way to go. Or maybe another way is just like a subtitle text file. Maybe time coding might be the way to go. I'm not really sure how all things work, but I also think that technology is changing little by little, so different methods and approaches might pop up. So overall, I think I had a pretty clean start with a lot of potential, with a lot of room for expansion, for kinds of expansion I was talking about. Or I just thought about something because it uses the text, maybe I can link it to a dictionary as well. Also, if I learn how to append text to the existing text so that it won't disappear, that's something a little more close to my original design, so I would like to figure that out as well. Overall, I've been learning different techniques and different parts of the Java programming language in Android app development, and they are not necessarily usable for developing this app right away, even though it gave me some idea about how Java works and how Android app design and development work. So I would like to spend a little more time all the interesting things that Java can do and all the useful things Android SDK offers, along with the Google API and other APIs that are available. The semester is over, but I'm not going to stop learning Java and Android SDK. I'm going to continue to learn more and more about them. I keep working on this app and see where it's going to lead to. That's pretty exciting.